Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios at Hythe, Southeast England, just on the coast of the English Channel, where there are a lot of seagulls, and they are very expressive, especially every morning. They remind me of a kind of aristocratic crow. They look white, but their call is not warbly like a songbird, but rather like a crow's, except a little bit less obnoxious, but kind of like in the same vein. Anyway, that was a morning meditation I had while I was chanting my rounds to the accompaniment of the seagulls. Well, here we are in the middle of a pandemic in which some countries have seemed to practically conquered or are near conquering it, and some countries are still struggling like anything to the point where it seems out of control. And whatever is going on around us, we have the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the personal association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his most beautiful and magnificent feature to associate with and to relish hearing about. We're so lucky. So lucky. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had great affection for the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, which he expressed in these poetic terms of glorification. In due course, Maha Pralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. So, we've reached the 6th chapter of the Madhya-lila, the liberation of Särvabhauma, Bhattäcärya. And the Bhattäcärya has met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell into an ecstatic trance after seeing Lord Jagannath, having first arrived in Jagannath Puri. And Särvabhauma has a great position of authority. He's the Mahant of Jagannath Puri. He's a teacher of thousands of sannyasis. He's so expert in revealed scriptures, especially the Vedanta Sutra, in the line of Shankaracharya. So he very carefully, him and his men, carried Lord Chaitanya to his house, and finally the devotees who were traveling with Lord Chaitanya, because he had gone ahead, a little upset because Lord Nityananda had broken his danda. And anyway, there were some other incidents, and then there was a discussion between Gopinathacharya and the followers of Särvabhauma, Bhattäcärya. And we're right in the middle of that discussion, beginning with text 85. Gopinathacharya is talking to Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya and his students. Gopinathacharya then addressed Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya. You are a great scholar and a teacher of many disciples. Indeed, there is no other scholar like you on earth. Nonetheless, because you are bereft of even a pinch of the Lord's mercy, you cannot understand him, even though he is present in your home. 87. It is not your fault. It is the verdict of scriptures. You cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by scholarship. Purport. This is a very important verse. Even big scholars cannot understand Krishna, yet they dare comment on the Bhagavad Gita. Reading the Bhagavad Gita means understanding Krishna, yet we actually see many scholars making blunders in trying to understand Krishna. Gopinathacharya's statement is confirmed in many places in the Vedic literature. In the Katha Upanishad 1.2.23, it is stated, Nayam Atma Prabhachanena Labhyo Namedaya Na Bahuna Shutena Yam Evaisha Vrinute Tena Labhyas Tasyaisha Atma Vrivinute Tandum Swam. It is also stated in Katha Upanishad 1.2.9, Naisha Tarkena Matir Apaneya Proktan Yenaiva Sugyanaya Prishta Yam Tvam Apak Satyadritir Batasi Tavrit Tvadrin No Bhuyan Nichiketak Prashta. The fact is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, cannot be attained simply by explanations, logic, and erudite scholarship. One cannot understand him simply by one's brain substance. Even by studying all the Vedic literatures, one cannot understand the Supreme Lord. However, if one is slightly favored by the mercy of the Lord, if the Lord is pleased, one can understand him. But who are the candidates eligible to receive the mercy of the Lord? Only the devotees. They alone can understand what is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord reveals himself to the sincere devotee when he is pleased with his service. Swayam eva spurat yadaha. One should not try to understand the Lord simply from the statements of the Vedas, nor should one uselessly attempt to decry these statements through reasoning and logic. Text 88. Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya replied, My dear Gopinathacharya, please speak with great care. What is the proof that you have received the mercy of the Lord? Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya replied, My dear Gopinathacharya, please speak with great care. What is the proof that you have received the mercy of the Lord? Gopinathacharya replied, Knowledge of the summum bonum, the absolute truth, is evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Purport. Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya informed his brother-in-law Gopinathacharya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead may not have shown mercy to me, but what is the proof of his having shown it to you? Kindly Let us know about this. In reply to this, Gopinathacharya said that the summum bonum, the absolute truth, and its different potencies are identical. Therefore, one can understand the substance of the absolute truth by the manifestation of its different potencies. The summum bonum includes all potencies in one unit. The absolute truth, combined with different characteristics, is the original substance, vastu. Padasya shaktir, vividaiva shruyate. Thus the Vedas state that the absolute truth has different potencies. When one understands the characteristics of the potencies of the absolute truth, one is aware of the absolute truth. On the material platform as well, one can understand the substance by the manifestation of its symptoms. For example, when there is heat, it is understood that there is fire. The heat of the fire is perceived directly. The fire may not be visible, but one can search out the fire by feeling heat. Similarly, if one can perceive the characteristics of the absolute truth, we can know that he has understood the substance of the absolute truth by the mercy of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.25 it is said, Naham prakashyak sarvasya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. Sevan mukhehi jivado swayameva spuratyadaha. The Lord reveals himself to a devotee when he is completely satisfied by the devotee's service. Thus one cannot understand the Supreme Lord without his mercy. I'll read that again. The Lord reveals himself to a devotee when he is completely satisfied by the devotee's service. Thus, one cannot understand the Supreme Lord without his mercy. The absolute truth cannot be understood by speculation, and this is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. Text 90. Gopinathacharya continued, You have seen the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his absorption in an ecstatic mood. 91. Despite directly perceiving the symptoms of the Supreme Lord in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you cannot understand him. This is commonly called illusion. Purport. Gopinathacharya is pointing out that Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya had already seen uncommon symptoms of ecstasy in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These uncommon symptoms of ecstatic love indicate the Supreme Person. But despite having seen all these symptoms, the Bhattacharya could not understand the Lord's transcendental nature. He was considering the Lord's pastimes to be mundane. This was certainly due to illusion. 92. A person influenced by the external energy is called Bahir-mukha Jana, a mundane person, because despite his perception, he cannot understand the real substance. Hearing Gopinathacharya say this, Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya smiled and began to speak as follows. Purport. When one's heart is not cleansed, one cannot awaken the devotional nature of devotional service. As Lord Krishna confirms in the Bhagavad Gita 7.28, Yesham tvantakatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajante mam dridavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. When one is actually engaged in pure devotional service, it is understood that he has already attained freedom from all reactions to sinful activities. In other words, it is to be understood that devotees are already freed from sin. A sinful person, a miscreant, duskriti, cannot engage in devotional service. Nor can one engage in devotional service simply on the basis of scholarly speculation. One has to wait for the mercy of the Lord in order to render pure devotional service. Text 93. The Bhattäcärya said, "We are just having a discussion among friends and considering the points described in the scriptures. Do not become angry. I am simply speaking on the strength of the Shastras. Please don't take any offense." 94. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is certainly a great, uncommon devotee, but we cannot accept him as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, because according to Shastra, there is no incarnation in this age of Kali. 95. Another name for Lord Vishnu is Triyuga, because there is no incarnation of Lord Vishnu in Kali Yuga. Indeed, this is the verdict of the revealed scriptures. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is known as Triyuga, which means that he manifests in 3 yugas. However, this means that in the age of Kali, the Lord appears not directly, but in disguise. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9-38. Itam tritirgyag rishideva jashavatāraya lokan vibhav vayasi hangsi jagat pratipan dharma mahapurusha pasiyuganuvritam chanak kalo yad abhavas triyugo tas satwam. My Lord, you kill all the enemies of the world in your multifarious incarnations, in the families of men, animals, demigods, rishis, aquatics, and so on. Thus you illuminate the worlds with transcendental knowledge. In this age of Kali, O Mahapurusha, you sometimes appear in a covered incarnation. Therefore you are known as Triyuga, one who appears in only 3 yugas. That's a fantastic verse. 7:9-38. That's Prahlad Maharaj to Nishingadev. Srila Sridhar Swami has also verified that Lord Vishnu appears in the age of Kali, but does not act as he does in other ages. Lord Vishnu incarnates for 2 purposes: Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya chaduskritam. That is, he comes to engage in pastimes with his devotees and to annihilate the demons. These purposes are visible in the Satya, Treta, and Dwapara Yugas, but in Kali Yuga, the Lord appears disguised. He does not directly kill demons and give protection to the faithful. Because the Lord is not directly perceived in Kali Yuga, but is directly known in the other 3 yugas, his name is Triyuga. Text 96. Upon hearing this, Gopinathacharya became very unhappy. He said to the Bhattäcärya, "You consider yourself the knower of all the Vedic scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata are the 2 most important Vedic scriptures, but you have paid no attention to their statements. In Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata, it is said that the Lord appears directly, but you say that in this age there is no manifestation or incarnation of Lord Vishnu. In this age of Kali, there is no Lila avatar of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore he is known as Triyuga. That is one of his holy names." Purport. A Lila avatar is an incarnation of the Lord who performs a variety of activities without making any special endeavor. He always has one pastime after another, all full of transcendental pleasure, and these pastimes are fully controlled by the Supreme Person. The Supreme Person is totally independent of all others in these pastimes. While teaching Sanatana Goswami, C.C. Madhya 20, 296 through 298, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pointed out that one cannot count the number of Lila avatars. Lilavatara Krishnera na yaya ganana pradana karya kahi dig darashana. However, the Lord told Sanatan, I shall explain to you the chief Lila avatars. Matya Kurma Raghunatha Nushinga Vamana Varahadi Lekayanre na yaya gana. Thus the Lord's incarnations were enumerated, including Matsya, the fish incarnation, Kurma, the tortoise, Lord Ramachandra, Nrsingadev, Vamanadev, and Varaha, the boar incarnation. Thus there are innumerable Lila avatars, and all of these exhibit wonderful pastimes. Lord Varaha, the boar incarnation, lifted the entire planet Earth from the depths of the Garbhodak ocean. The tortoise incarnation, Lord Kurma, became a pivot for the emulsification of the whole sea, and Lord Nrsingadev appeared as half man, half lion. These are some of the wonderful and uncommon features of Lila avatars. In his book Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami has enumerated the following 25 Lila avatars: Chatursana, Narada, Varaha, Matsya, Yagya, Naranarayana, Kapila, Dattatreya, Hayashirsha or Hayagriva, Hamsa, Prishnigarbha, Rishab, Prithu, Nrishinga, Kurma, Dhanvantari, Mohini, Vamana, Parashuram, Raghavendra, Vyasa, Balaram, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not mentioned as a Lila avatar because he is an incarnation in disguise, Chana avatar. In this age of Kali there are no Lila avatars, but there is an incarnation of the Lord manifested in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This has been explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 100. Gopinathacharya continued, there is certainly an incarnation in every age, and such an incarnation is called the Yuga avatar. But your heart has become so hardened by logic and argument that you cannot consider all these facts. Text 101. In the past, your son has had bodies of 3 different colors, according to the age. These colors were white, red, and yellow. In this age, Dwapara Yuga, he has accepted a blackish body. Purport. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.13 was spoken by Garga Muni when he was performing the rituals at Lord Krishna's name-giving ceremony. He states that the incarnations of the Lord in other ages had been white, red, and yellow. This yellow color refers to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose bodily complexion was yellowish. This confirms that in past Kali Yugas, the Lord also had incarnated in a body that was yellow in hue. It is understood that the Lord incarnates in different colors for the different Yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. Accepting the color of yellow, Pita, as well as other characteristics, the Lord incarnated as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the verdict of all Vedic authorities. Text 102. In the age of Kali, as well as in Dwapara Yuga, the people offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by various mantras and observe the regulative principles of the supplementary Vedic literatures. Now please hear of this from me. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.31. Text 103. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Jagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumeda Saha. In this age of Kali, those who are intelligent perform the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in this age, always describing the glories of Krishna. That incarnation is yellowish in hue and is always associated with his plenary expansions, such as Nityananda Prabhu, and personal expansions, such as Gadadhar, as well as his devotees and associates, such as Swarup Damodar. Purport. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32 is explained by Sri Jiva Goswami in his Krama Sandarbha, as quoted by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in regard to the explanation of Adi-lila, 3rd chapter, verse 53. Text 104. The Lord, in the incarnation of Gaurasundar, has a golden complexion. Indeed, his entire body, which is very nicely constituted, is like molten gold. Sandalwood pulp is smeared all over his body. He will take the 4th order of spiritual life, sannyas, and will be very much self-controlled. He will be distinguished from the Mayavadi sannyasis in that he will be fixed in devotional service and will spread the Sankirtan movement. Purport. Gopinathacharya quoted this verse from the Mahabharat's Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra. Text 105. Gopinathacharya then said, "There is no need to quote so much evidence from the Shastras, for you are a very dry speculator. There is no need to sow seeds in barren land." Ooh, heavy words. 106. When the Lord will be pleased with you, you will also understand these conclusions and will quote from the Shastras. The false arguments and philosophical word jugglery of your disciples are not faults of theirs. They have simply received the benediction of Mayavad philosophy. Text 108. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of unlimited qualities and whose different potencies bring about agreement and disagreement between disputants. Thus, the illusory energy again and again covers the self-realization of both disputants. Whoa. Next time you get into an argument, you can read this verse. I'll read it again. It's very important. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of unlimited qualities and whose different potencies bring about agreement and disagreement between disputants. Thus, the illusory energy again and again covers the self-realization of both disputants. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 6.4.31. Text 109. In almost all cases, whatever learned brahmanas speak becomes accepted. Nothing is impossible for one who takes shelter of my illusory energy and speaks under her influence. In other words, Maya can tell you to say anything at any time. Purport. In this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.22.4, the Supreme Personality of Godhead explains that his illusory energy can perform the impossible, such as the power of the illusory energy. In many cases, philosophical speculators have covered the real truth and have boldly set forth false theories. In ancient times, philosophers like Kapila, Gautama, Jaimini, Kanada, and similar brahmanas propounded useless philosophical theories. And in modern days, so-called scientists are setting forth many false theories about the creation, backed up by seemingly logical arguments. This is all due to the influence of the Supreme Lord's illusory energy. The illusory energy, therefore, sometimes appears correct because it is emanating from the Supreme Correct. To avoid the very bewildering illusory influence, one must accept the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as they are. Only then can one escape the influence of the illusory energy. Text 110. After hearing this from Gopinathacharya, Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya said, "First go to the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is staying and invite him here with his associates. Ask him on my account." Text 111. Take Jagannath Prasadam and first give it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. After that, come back here and teach me well. Gopinathacharya was the brother-in-law of Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya. Therefore, their relationship was very sweet and intimate. Under these circumstances, Gopinathacharya taught him by sometimes blaspheming him, sometimes praising him, and sometimes laughing at him. This had been going on for some time. 113. Srila Mukunda Datta felt very satisfied to hear the conclusive statements of Gopinathacharya, but he became very unhappy and angry to hear the statements put forward by Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya. 114. According to the instructions of Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya, Gopinathacharya went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and invited him on the Bhattacharya's behalf. Text 115. The Bhattacharya statements were discussed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopinathacharya and Mukunda Datta disapproved of the Bhattacharya statements because they caused mental pain. Text 116. Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Do not speak like that. Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya has shown great affection and mercy toward me." 117. Out of paternal affection for me, he wants to protect me and see that I follow the regulative principles of a sannyasi. What fault is there in this? The next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya together visited the temple of Lord Jagannath. Both of them were in a very pleasant mood. When they entered the temple, Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya offered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a seat, while he himself sat down on the floor out of due respect for a sannyasi. Text 120. He then began to instruct Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on Vedanta philosophy, and out of affection and devotion, he spoke to the Lord as follows. Purport. The Vedanta, or Brahma Sutra, written by Srila Vyasadeva, is a book studied by all advanced spiritual students, especially by the sannyasis of all religious communities, sampradayas. The sannyasis must read the Vedanta Sutra to establish their final conclusions concerning Vedic knowledge. Here, of course, the Vedanta mentioned is the commentary of Shankaracharya, known as Shariraka Bhashya. Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya intended to convert Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was a Vaishnava sannyasi, into a Mayavadi sannyasi. Oopsie, barking up the wrong tree here. He therefore made this arrangement to instruct him in the Vedanta Sutra according to the Shariraka commentary of Shankaracharya. All the sannyasis of the Shankara Sampradaya enjoy seriously studying the Vedanta Sutra with the Shariraka Bhashya commentary. It is said, Vedanta Vakyeshu Sada Ramanta. One should always enjoy the studies of the Vedanta Sutra. Text 121. The Bhattacharya said, hearing Vedanta philosophy is a sannyasi's main business. Therefore, without hesitation, you should study Vedanta philosophy, hearing it without cessation from a superior person. 122. Lord Chaitanya replied, you are very merciful to me, and therefore I think it is my duty to obey your order. Thus, for 7 days continually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu listened to the Vedanta philosophy expounded by Särvabhauma Bhattacharya. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not say anything and did not indicate whether it was right or wrong. He simply sat there and listened to the Bhattacharya. Text 124. On the 8th day, Särvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have been listening to Vedanta philosophy from me continually for 7 days. You have simply been listening, fixed in your silence. Since you do not say whether you think it is right or wrong, I cannot know whether you are actually understanding Vedanta philosophy or not. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I am a fool, and consequently, I do not study the Vedanta Sutra. I am just trying to hear it from you because you have ordered me. Text 127. Only for the sake of executing the duties of the renounced order of sannyas do I listen. Unfortunately, I cannot in the least understand the meaning you are presenting. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented himself as if he were a sannyasi in name only, or in other words, a number one fool. Mayavadi sannyasis in India are very much accustomed to declaring themselves Jagat Gurus, teachers of the world, although they have no information of the outside world and are limited to their experience to a small town or village, or perhaps to the country of India. Nor do such sannyasis have sufficient education. Unfortunately, at the present moment, there are many foolish sannyasis, both in India and elsewhere, who simply read and study Vedic literature without understanding the purport. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was having his discussion with the Chand Kazi, the Muslim magistrate of Navadvip, he recited a verse from the Vedic literature to the effect that the order of sannyas is prohibited in this age of Kali. Only those who are very serious and who follow the regulated principles and study Vedic literature should accept sannyas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved of a sannyasi's reading the Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra, but he did not approve the Shariraka commentary of Shankaracharya. Indeed, he said elsewhere, Mayavadi Bhashya Shunile Haya Sarvanash. If one hears the Shariraka Bhashya of Shankaracharya, he is doomed. Thus a sannyasi, a transcendentalist, must read the Vedanta Sutra regularly, but he should not read the Shariraka Bhashya. This is the conclusion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The real commentary on the Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam, Arto Yam Brahma Sutranam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the original commentary on the Vedanta Sutra written by the author himself, Srila Vyasadeva. Arto Yam Brahma Sutranam. Text 128. Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya replied, I accept that you do not understand. Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya replied, I accept that you do not understand, yet even one who does not understand inquires about the subject matter. 129. You are hearing again and again, yet you keep silent. I cannot understand what is actually within your mind. Text 130. Now he's asking for it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then revealed his mind, saying, I can understand the meaning of each sutra very clearly, but your explanations have simply agitated my mind. Purport. The factual meaning of the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra is as clear as sunshine. The Mayavadi philosophers simply try to cover the sunshine with the clouds of interpretation imagined by Shankaracharya and his followers. The meaning of the aphorisms in the Vedanta Sutra contain clear purports in themselves, but other purports you presented simply covered the meaning of the sutras like a cloud. Purport. Please refer to Madhya-lila, 7th chapter, verses 106 to 146 for an explanation of this verse. That's 40 verses to explain this one verse. Text 132. You do not explain the direct meaning of the Brahma Sutras. Indeed, it appears that your business is to cover their real meaning. Purport. This is typical of all Mayavadis or atheists who interpret the meaning of Vedic literature in their own imaginative way. The real purpose of such foolish people is to impose impersonalist conclusion on all Vedic literature. The Mayavadi atheists also interpret the Bhagavad Gita. In every verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In every verse, Vyasadeva says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, or the Blessed Lord said. It is clearly stated that the Blessed Lord is the Supreme Person, but Mayavadi atheists still try to prove that the Absolute Truth is impersonal. In order to present their false, imaginary meanings, they must adopt so much word jugglery and grammatical interpretation that they finally become ludicrous. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remarked that no one should hear the Mayavadi commentaries or purports to any Vedic literature. So we'll stop here. Now we're going to hear, this is a stopping place, because now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to explain the direct meaning of the Vedanta Sutra or the Vyasa Sutra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophical genius ki jai. Okay, the ball is in your court, O assembled sages.
First is something from Gauranga Gopal Das.
Mm-hmm.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, it is so nice to hear this conversation between Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya and Gopinathacharya, and how glorious devotees are, being the only recipients of the Lord's mercy.
Mm.
Remembering my first meeting with a devotee in the street while traveling on the other side of the planet, it is amazing to realize how much Krishna goes out of his way in order to unconditionally bestow his mercy upon one of his fallen souls.
Yes, this is the special feature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is Mahabharanyavatara. He is the most munificent incarnation of Krishna because he actually runs after the conditioned souls and gives them causeless mercy, even if they're not aware of it or even if they don't want it, even against their will. He sometimes gives them causeless mercy and the proper understanding. Yes. That is the unique feature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's incarnation, his mercy, and the mercy of those who follow him properly. Hare Krishna.
Next is something from Yadutama.
Jai Yadutama.
He says, Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm always so impressed with Lord Chaitanya's etiquette when he first came before Särvabhauma, and then when he sat down to hear from him. Lord Chaitanya is the best example of a perfect gentleman, but also the ultimate trickster. Could you please comment on this further?
Well, Prabhupada kind of laughed at us when he, first few years here he was with us, and he told us that Krishna had tricked us. And yes, that's what Lord Chaitanya does. That's what the Chana avatar is. We heard a lot about how Särvabhauma Bhattacharya misread the Vedic scriptures and the verse Triyuga that contains the word Triyuga. And then Gopinathacharya quoted Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata to describe how in the Kali Yuga the Lord appears in a Chana avatar, or a covered incarnation. And this way he tricks us into worshipping him. Just like Buddha also was covered incarnation in a sense, because he preached basically atheism, but he got everyone to worship him, and he was Krishna himself. So in that way he tricked the atheists into worshipping him. And then that way they made spiritual advancement and also stopped their violence that was going on in the name of religion at the time. So, yeah, he's a trickster because he comes in disguise and is able to do things and say things that if he had come as a regular incarnation, people might try to imitate him. And Lord Chaitanya tried to avoid that phenomenon. And therefore he presented himself as the most humble. Trinada pisu nichana, taroda pisu hitnana. He's teaching us by his example. He's tricking us because he's Krishna, teaching us how to serve Krishna perfectly by his own example. So that's why he's a trickster. He's a trickster in that way. But he's also very, very compassionate and loving because he gave pure love of God, not just the proper understanding of Scripture, but literally pure love of God to everyone he met. Sometimes he would use different means, and especially because the Bhattäcärya was deeply steeped in Mayavad philosophy. Generally, he said that persons who heard the Mayavad philosophy are incorrigible. They're doomed. Their spiritual life is doomed. They're incorrigible. They can't hear anything about the absolute truth directly from the Vedanta Sutra, because their minds have been covered by the twisting and word jugglery of Shankaracharya, and especially of Shankaracharya's followers. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya tricked him and got him to sit there and speak for 7 days straight. And in that way, indirectly, he rendered service to Lord Chaitanya. And even Lord Chaitanya told the devotees, don't talk about him. He just has a paternal love for me, and he wants to help me, and protect me in my youth, so I can stay strict in my sannyas ashram. So in all these ways, Lord Chaitanya runs after the conditioned souls, and then uses all the means available to him, which is everything, because he is everything. His philosophy is complete in all ways. And he delivers the whole universe. So now we're going to hear the way that Lord Chaitanya delivered his mercy to Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya, and did something that practically was impossible, to deliver a person to pure love of God who was that deeply absorbed in Mayavad philosophy. Impossible. Hare Krishna.
Two questions from Gauranga Gopal.
Gauranga Gopal, okay.
He said, also I wondered what are the red and white incarnations of the Lord in previous yugas?
In this cycle, it was Kapila Dev and Yajna.
And then his second question was, what qualifies an incarnation of the Lord to be one of the Dasa avatars?
Dasa avatars are just prominent. They're very prominent in the scriptures. They're well known. They're sung about more than most others. But the point is that the Bhagavatam is the history of the whole universe. So you can't even count the number of incarnations that have happened in the whole universe in that length of time. Right now we're about halfway through this particular cosmic manifestation, the life of Brahma, and that's 150-some trillion years. So in 311 trillion years, which is the whole lifetime of Brahma, the length of time of the cosmic manifestation, there's unlimited numbers of incarnations. But the Dasa avatars they're very prominent. That's all. They're most prominent, the best known. That's what qualifies them. Hare Krishna.
And a comment from Rati Manjari. She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Haribol Rati.
What I also like about the conversation between the Lord and the Bhattacharya is that he sat down patiently to hear the Mayavadi ludicrous interpretations of the Bhattacharya for 7 days without saying anything. I imagine him getting up, taking bath, sitting down the whole day and listening, and saying nothing. The Bhattäcärya must have become increasingly curious and mystified with the Lord, and greatly eager to hear the response of the Lord. And then when his response finally came, it hit the Bhattäcärya like a bhakti wave. Quite a pastime.
Quite a pastime. Like I was saying before, this is something that's just not done. To convert a Mayavadi philosophy who was as deeply committed as Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya was, is impossible. Go out and try. Go to India and try and find. There's lots of them, very learned in Sanskrit, very learned. They'll tie your brain in a pretzel with their word juggler, and you'll end up being bewildered. Prabhupada said, don't do it. Don't go and listen to the Mayavadi philosophies, even for an instant. Because as soon as you listen submissively, you lose your ability to understand the absolute truth. So yes, it is a wonder. Lord Chaitanya's behavior was a wonder. He was the most liberal and the most strict, at the same time. All seemingly conflicting conclusions, contradictory conclusions, are reconciled in the body of the Lord and the activities of the Lord.
Gauranga Gopal says, thank you, Maharaj, for your answers.
Well, I don't know if I'm making any sense at all. I'm just kind of trying to... I think all of you are asking great questions, and therefore things that I've heard are coming out of my mouth that I don't really remember. But by your mercy, they're coming out of my mouth. So that's all your credit, not mine. Hare Krishna.
Another comment from Rati Manjari. She says, I am always awed by the description of the amount of avatars, as many as there are waves in the ocean.
Yes.
Such opulence, such supremacy, surely domination.
Yes. Total domination. But total domination not in the way that an autocrat, or a dictator dominates, but with great care and contention and compassion, and just see, he knows that Särvabhauma is as proud as a peacock. So he lets him speak to him constantly for 7 days to show his all the wares. He lets him show his whole wares, and then he just literally destroys them. And because he's shown everything, then he's got nothing else to say. And then, anyway, we'll hear about this tomorrow or the next day. So wonderful pastime. One of my favorites. So.
Next is something from Dal Nitai.
Haribol Dal Nitai.
He says, Dear and respected Srila Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. Hare Krishna. In the purport to text 89, Srila Prabhupada gives an example how perception of heat suggests that nearby there must be fire. One could argue that yes, the fire can be actually seen, felt, heard, smelled by all persons who observe the fire, so that would prove the existence of the fire. The characteristics of the absolute truth, however, cannot be perceived unless one is supra-essentially qualified. How does a preacher at this point go about proving his point? Thank you, your servant, Dharanitai Das.
Well, Prabhupada gave the essence of it in this response. There are, everyone accepts nature as the mother nature. And there's so many living entities coming from that nature, mother nature. So you've got the children, you've got the mother, so where's the father? And if you say you don't know, the answer is, well, just because you don't know who your father is, that doesn't mean you don't have a father. You must have a father. There's so many things that we can't see or are not aware of that exist and that are true. And that's a major one. So the other answer to the question, the other side to your answer, of the answer to your question is that everyone is already seeing the absolute truth. In the same way, actually. They're seeing the unlimited potencies of the sun and the fire and water and all the energies and the patterns and the unbelievable organization, down to even the scientists look now down into the, subatomic world, and they see structure. Wherever they look, they see structure. That is them seeing the absolute truth. Everyone is seeing the absolute truth. Therefore Krishna says, Ye yatam mam prapadyante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham mama manuvartante manushak partha sarvasha. Everyone is following my path, O Arjun, in all respects. They're following my path, but some know it and some don't. That's all. Time I am. Everyone is seeing the activities of time, and everyone has to submit to the energy of time, the force of time. So it's not that they're not seeing it, they just can't understand it. That is Krishna's mercy on the conditioned souls who want to live in a world where Krishna isn't there. It's not possible, but Krishna arranges a situation so they can live in the world and pretend that he's not there. That's literally what's going on here. And the Mayapad philosophy just gives philosophical explanations for that illusion. I mean, there's much more to it than that, and what we say depends on what each person can hear and what they say, but that's the gist of it. Hare Krishna.
Dharani says, makes total sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, the fact is that we're meant to follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, and all of Lord Chaitanya's exalted associates, eternal associates. Not that we can imitate them and sit down with a hardcore Mayavadi and, just by touching him or just by, tricking him or whatever, making him a pure devotee. But we should preach. We should try to explain the philosophy as it is, as is given by Srila Prabhupada. In that way we can follow in the footsteps of the Lord and the Lord's authorized devotees. And if we do that, we get all protection from the Lord, we get the potency to say the things that will change the heart of others. Hare Krishna.
One more comment from Yaduttama.
Hare Krishna, Yaduttama.
He says, it is funny to think that Lord Chaitanya has to trick us to give us the highest love for him. So sweet. Thank you for your comments.
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.
I also was thinking how it was wonderful how the Bhattäcärya instructs Lord Chaitanya on Vedanta philosophy out of affection and devotion, and how Lord Chaitanya accepts any little bit of devotion we show him. And one question from Rati Manjari. Says, if I can ask a question also, I have heard before that the stories of Mahabharata were compiled for women and Sudras. Tonight I was a little surprised to hear that the Mahabharata was quoted as one of the most important scriptures, along with the Srimad Bhagavatam. Is this because the Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata? Or could you please comment on how we are to understand this point, dear Guru?
It was written particularly for this age, for those who were not very philosophically astute. And yes, because the Bhagavad Gita is there, it is the jewel. And the rest of the Mahabharata is like the setting for the jewel. It's written by Vedavyas particularly for the Brahma Bandhus and Vaishyas and Shudras and Stri and less intelligent, not very philosophically inclined personalities. But they get the same result. That's the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita. Not that we should dwell on the fact that we're less intelligent, whether we're a woman or a Shudra. Everyone in the Kali Yuga is less intelligent. There are no real Brahmanas or real Kshatriyas. But anyone can get the supreme goal by following by hearing and following the Bhagavad Gita. Padam Gatim, that's the verse. Mami Partha Prapashityu Yepis Papa Yunina Striyo Vaishyas Tadajita Tepiyanti Padam Gatim. It's not relevant what kind of physical body you have or what kind of situation you have in this Kali Yuga. Everyone is disqualified in the Kali Yuga. Manda Samanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Ubadrita. So don't dwell on our disqualifications because we'll just become discouraged, but rather take Krishna consciousness as it is and go back home, back to Godhead. And anyone and everyone can do that. And that is the supreme mercy of the Lord. As we heard in this last reading, Krishna enters into the brains of the disputants, the persons who are arguing with one another, and both of them end up being unable to understand the truth. You can't understand it by argument. So better we don't dwell on our disqualification, because all of us are disqualified in this Kali Yuga, practically speaking. Our qualification is we were able to, by good fortune, come in contact with Srila Prabhupada's teachings and those who are representing his teachings faithfully and without changing them. And now we are being uplifted to the spiritual plane. And that should give unlimited gratitude and happiness and satisfaction. And all we have to do now, especially in this pandemic, just open our eyes, look around, and we'll see how people are suffering like anything. And we as devotees, at least we have this opportunity to associate with the absolute truth and get relief, regularly relief, when we chant the holy name and hear these holy scriptures and associate with the holy devotees and the holy prasadam. And we're so lucky. Hare Krishna.
Rati Banjari says, thank you. So good to be with you every evening and be able to get everything we hear further explained.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm going to stop here. It's almost 8:30. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow. Let me see, tomorrow's Monday. It's the day before. Now, there's some the temples who are following on different days, Janmashtami and Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. I'm going to celebrate on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that's according to the GCal calendar. I think the temples here in the UK are celebrating on Wednesday and Thursday. So be it. Let us hear and chant the glories of the Lord all day. Hare Krishna. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, everybody. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same station. Hare Krishna.